Welcome to another exciting episode of Bats, Balls and Banter, your ultimate destination for all things cricket. Cricket is more than just a game, it's a passion that unites millions across the globe. Here at Bats, Balls and Banter, we're dedicated to bringing you closer to the action, the stories and the personalities that make cricket the fascinating sport that it is. I'm your host, Kevin Pattenden. Grab your bat, hold on to your balls, settle in, and let's dive into the banter. So welcome everybody to the podcast where we talk all things cricket with the people who live and breathe the game. Today we're thrilled to have the CEO of Lincolnshire Cricket, Martyn Dobson, with us. From grassroots beginnings to leading the organisation and even playing cricket in Australia, Martyn has a wealth of experience to share with us all. Hi Martyn, and welcome to Bats, Balls and Banter.
Hi, thank you very much for having me.
No problem, great to have you here. Look, let's start from the beginning if that's okay. So what first drew you to cricket, Martyn? And a second part to that question, how did that journey through grassroots cricket shape you as a player and potentially as a leader later on in life?
Look, I mean, for me, I guess like many, it was a bit of a family affair. My dad played cricket. Both grandparents played cricket. So yeah, from a really early age, both me and my brother. I've got an elder brother who's 2 years older than me. We were, being pushed in a pram by our mum, watching my dad play in the Bradford League and playing around the boundary edges with softball, bat, anything we could kind of get hold of. So yeah, that's how pretty much every Saturday would have been spent, from being kind of none really.
Yeah, from being able to push in a pram, I suppose, like you say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was very much a family thing. Grew up around my dad playing and then me playing kind of on the boundary edge, and it kind of went from there. I guess in terms of how did it shape me, it's a big question, isn't it? I don't know. I mean, I guess, it sort of teaches you how to sort of interact with people, I suppose, and sort of build up those social skills. Making friends. If you see another couple of kids playing on the boundary edge, kind of going up to them and asking if you can join in.
I think that's one of the big things from cricket, isn't it? When I'm very similar to yourself, although my dad didn't play, my elder brother played, and so that's how I got, a bit like yourself, got an elder brother, and that's how I got involved. And then I'd be down there a bit like yourself, and then you make friends, and then you enjoy it, then you're playing cricket on the boundary rope, and all of a sudden you've got a friendship, you've got a sport, and you're out in the open, and it's just it's a great feeling, I suppose. There's not many sports, I don't think, where you have that edge of boundary, so to speak, activities as families, which is a brilliant thing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I guess it's probably down to the length of time a game of cricket takes. You're kind of there all day, aren't you? And it's and they're often big fields, aren't they? So there's often sort of space around the edges to play. So yeah, that was very much the introduction to cricket for me. And yeah, it was just a great way to make friends. I guess from there you then start to sort of build up your kind of ambition, I suppose, as to sort of where you want to get in the game. But yeah, it was very much a family thing for me. And yeah, that sort of stereotypical kind of kid on the boundary edge playing with his brother and a few others.
Yeah, we've all been there. It's great fun. And what are the sort of memorable moments from your early playing days then? Obviously, you followed your father. That's how you got down at the ground. You'd be there all day. You'd be making friends, and then you started playing yourself, obviously, no doubt, at the younger levels. And is there any memorable moments from your very early playing days? I mean, we'll come on to your career of progressing through the age groups and playing in Australia a little bit later, but from your early playing days.
I mean, there's loads. I mean, there's obviously the age group stuff. You kind of navigated that. And for me, I was born and brought up in Scunthorpe, so at the time that was in a county called Humberside, which doesn't exist anymore. So it was Humberside Schools that was sort of my kind of age group cricket. I guess kind of things that stand out. I remember making my sort of senior debut. I think I was probably 12 years old, and I played for Appleby Frodingham second team, which again was sort of through my dad. Really, my dad was playing first team cricket for Appleby Frodingham in the old Yorkshire League, and yeah, I got it. Somebody probably didn't turn up or was sick or something, so I got a gig playing in the second team for them. So I definitely remember that. It was against Sheffield United, who also don't exist anymore.
No.
Watching Lane. So yeah, that stands out. I guess you're making my full senior debut, if you like. I remember playing for Rotherham again. I was probably 13 or so when I managed to sort of first play, I guess, proper cricket, if you like. And again, that was in the Yorkshire League. So yeah, I guess as memories, they definitely stand out.
Yeah, I think when you first, as a junior, I'd be a bit like yourself. Sort of, I think I even went scoring for a year, hoping somebody would not turn up, and I'd always have my bag on my back. I didn't really want to score. I just wanted to be there if somebody didn't turn up. And coincidentally, and not that the listeners will know this, but my very first game for Retford, it was for the adults, was at Welbeck, but the old Welbeck, not the not their current ground. And I know you played at Welbeck so many years after that, but just that memorable moment of playing your first senior cricket, I suppose, is just something that never goes away.
No, yeah, I agree, and I think it's playing with men, isn't it? Suddenly you've kind of gone from playing with your peers to playing against men, and it's especially back then there was a lot more sort of 30-year-old plus men playing recreational cricket. It feels like the age has got a little younger more recently, but yeah, no, played with some fantastic players, overseas pros, ex-professionals, and it was really eye-opening. It's kind of going into that world.
Perfect. Sounds like a good tradition, a good beginning there. So as you progress through the ages then in cricket, and I think you went through all the age groups as you went along, which does take some dedication to do that, because we all know as youngsters other things get in their way, partying, not being available, whatever it might be. So going through that, I think, just shows your dedication, skills. But what were the challenges and highlights of moving through each stage, do you think? As you got from 13s to 15s to 17s to 19s, or whatever the age groups were then. I think they're probably slightly different these days than those days. But what were the challenges you felt you were up against?
I think the challenges were, that sort of constant ambition to get better, to be of value, in the sort of team, in the environment that you were in. That was always a challenge. I think constantly trying to impress, coaches and others around you, and trying to be noticed. I guess the pressure of that was definitely a challenge. I guess in terms of the highlights, I think I was quite lucky in terms of my progression through that sort of talent pathway system, and I was able to play sort of county cricket, and then on to sort of regional stuff, and it I managed to play for England schoolboys, which so they would be the obvious, I guess, sort of standout highlights of that kind of early career. But yeah, I think the challenges were definitely around trying to deal with that sort of perceived pressure. I guess it's all relative, isn't it? And when you look back, it's actually wasn't that much pressure at all. But at the time, it felt like Everest trying to sort of be the best form of yourself you can be. But yeah, I think that pressure, that sort of feeling of being watched and being observed and being assessed, I guess. People making a judgment as to whether they felt you were good enough or not. But yeah, I think they were probably the obvious challenges.
Yeah, I think they're quite valid, and as I say, nowhere near to the level that you played at. But as I was coming through the age group, I was always wanting to be better. I was always wanting to prove to somebody that I could move up. I was a bowler. I was a batter. And I think the key thing there is, as you've said, is you put it on yourself to think that's what's. Whereas if in hindsight I'd have just let myself probably be a bit more relaxed or gone with the flow, it may have turned out different. But it is what it is, and everybody's different. But so you've talked about impressing coaches and etc. etc. Is there anybody in particular, coach or mentor, who had a a significant impact on your development during those earlier years, shall we say?
Yeah, look, I'm sure there were lots. You know, I guess the sort of obvious one that I'd probably throw out there, and it sounds a bit cheesy to say, well, probably my dad. Not so much in a kind of formal coaching role. He was always pretty conscious that he didn't want to be overbearing. He didn't want to be, kind of one of those parents, if you like. But yeah, I guess, in terms of, nurturing me and certainly in terms of getting me around, he was without my mum and dad, that I wouldn't have been able to do it. And he was always there to sort of throw balls at me if I wanted them. But equally, not sort of, whipping me into shape and
putting
forcing me out.
Pressure on you that can happen, can't it?
Yeah. So I guess he'd be an obvious one. I guess in sort of slightly later years, a guy that you'll probably know, and I know he played at Retford, a guy called Mark Fell.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
would be. I mean, in sort of slightly later years, I played a fair bit of cricket for Lincolnshire in the sort of minor county environment, and Mark was kind of very much at the helm of Lincolnshire, and I always felt he was a really good batting coach, really great, technical knowledge and understanding of technique and a real ability to be able to sort of put that into words you could understand. So yeah, he would be probably one person I would sort of highlight and say that as a kind of mentor, coach that you really respected. He would definitely be up there.
Yeah, and I know, Mark, that's a fair call, and I think we've all been there where parents have been so supportive. We wouldn't have got to anywhere near where we were if it hadn't have been for parents in most cases. So I think that's understandable, and I would say over the years you've had people come and go, and some have made an influence, some have made a small influence, but not such a big one, and therefore it's very difficult. But many coaches and mentors over the years. Look, we'll come back in 2 seconds' time, and we'll talk about you playing in Australia. You are listening to the podcast Bats, Balls and Banter. Please like, subscribe and share with your fellow enthusiasts. Hey, don't forget to leave a review, and your support keeps the banter going. CEO of Lincolnshire Cricket, Martyn Dobson, and we were just talking about his progression through the age group and his early days from the grassroots, and now we're moving on to Martyn's experience of playing in Australia. And I'm assuming, Martyn, it would have been quite different from playing in the UK. I've never done it, but how did that experience broaden your perspective on the game?
I mean, massively. It had a huge sort of influence on both me as a person and as a cricketer. I was pretty lucky. I went out to play in Melbourne. I went to play for Melbourne University and played grade cricket, which was a real eye opener. It's the standard was fantastic. I went over and started playing in the third team when I first got there. I think they were a bit reluctant to put an English guy up in the top few teams. So started playing in the third team and managed to do reasonably well and sort of progressed into playing for the second team and then finally kind of got into the first team for the just after the sort of midpoint of their season. So yeah, it was great. I mean, in terms of the conditions, it was obviously hard. I remember playing on some really hot days. I think we played a game. We played a game when they suspended play on the Australian Open tennis because it was too hot. Wow. So it was like sort of 40 degrees or something. So that was like a real eye opener. I remember walking out to bat and you could just see the sort of heat shimmering off the wicket. So it's that was
so
that
it
was
improved your fitness, no doubt. Helped with your fitness then, because
it did. Yeah, absolutely.
Fit to play in that, I would think.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, you needed to be fit. You needed to be well prepared as well. I remember, the sort of work ethic around practice was very different to the UK. There was guys would be pitched up, twice a week, and I've pretty intense practice sessions, which I really enjoyed, and it was again just a bit of an eye opener into how the game's played slightly different out there. I guess things that really stick out in my memory would be the sort of the kind of banter / sledging that kind of went on in sort of grade cricket was a bit of an eye opener. It's they certainly kind of, you know, they knew that you were English, and they
kept reminding you of it.
They very much did keep reminding you. And
how were we doing in the Ashes at that particular time? I'm not sure what year it was, Martyn, but how were we doing?
We weren't doing great, so none of that helped. But look, I had a fantastic time. I lived in Melbourne, right in the city centre. My now wife came out and spent a few months out there as well. So it was kind of the two of us on the other side of the world, kind of fending for ourselves and playing fantastic cricket.
So perfect. So you must have got some big lessons from playing over there then, both on and off the field, as you say. Must have been some big learning curves for you there.
Yeah, huge learning curves. I guess off the field, it was the first sort of experience of kind of living on your own and managing your finances, finding somewhere to live, all of that stuff. So in terms of kind of life skills, it was huge, and I vividly remember feeling a long way away from home as well. Like, I didn't get homesick. I had a great time, but I do remember thinking, wow, I'm literally on the other side of the world here. It'd take a whole day on an aeroplane just to get back. So that definitely kind of landed, and in terms of life skills, it was invaluable, really.
And I'm assuming you would recommend to anybody then, if they got the opportunity or the chance, maybe not just Australia, I don't know, New Zealand or South Africa or any sort of places, that you would recommend that somebody would go and try it for a learning curve from both cricket, and from personal experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. I would hugely, advocate anybody, if they have the opportunity to sort of go and play a season overseas, wherever it may be, to jump at it and really throw yourself into it. Because it was fantastic. From a cricketing point of view, it was great. I was getting to play against players that were better than me in a standard that was much better than sort of club cricket in the UK. So from that side of things, it was great. It felt like my cricket really kicked on, and then you also just get exposed to a slightly different way of playing. I think Australia in particular, it's ultra competitive. It's really hard nosed, and you kind of have to leave your ego at the door, sort of thing, and just buy into it, which was great. Made some fantastic friends, friends that we're still in contact with today. We just got back off holiday where we met up with a lad that I used to play with at Melbourne. It was brilliant, and I would hugely advocate anybody who has the chance to do it to grab it with both hands.
To take it for an all-round experience. Perfect. Look, so I very whistle-stop tour, Martyn, and I'm grateful for you for giving us a sort of overview, as I say, on your grassroots and then age groups and then playing in Australia, but a bit more to the modern day now then, and obviously those experiences that we've just reflected on in the past. Now that you're at the helm of Lincolnshire Cricket as the CEO, what are your main goals, I suppose, for the organisation, and how do you plan to nurture and develop the next generation of cricketer? You've just talked about going abroad if you get an opportunity. Is that something you help with? But I suppose, what's the main goals now for Lincolnshire Cricket?
Yeah, it's a great question, isn't it? It's a job interview question. I mean, look,
you won't be fired. You're all right. I'm not going to do an Alan Sugar.
Yeah. No, look, I mean, fundamentally, we exist to try and grow and nurture the game. So, in terms of aims and objectives, our aims are around trying to grow the sport. So, we are out there delivering introductory activity in schools, trying to work with our recreational club network within the county to make sure that the coaching infrastructure is right, and that clubs have varied entry points into the game for boys and girls. The been a huge growth in the female game, across the country, particularly in Lincolnshire, actually, where we've sort of doubled the number of women and girls sections that we've had over the last couple of years. So yeah, growing the game would be absolutely key. And then I guess, alongside that, it's also around trying to provide those young people who are gifted and talented with the opportunity to progress. Obviously we don't have a first class team within Lincolnshire. We haven't got a professional game, but we have a pretty proud history of producing talent and trying to transition that talent. So from that sort of side of things, it is about trying to make sure that those gifted and talented boys and girls who live in Lincolnshire, have the opportunity to maximise their potential. And I think from day one, that's something I've been really passionate about, and making sure that it's not a postcode lottery. And the fact that you live in Lincolnshire, shouldn't preclude you from being able to progress. So yeah, I very much see our role as being sort of facilitators in trying to enable that. And yeah, like I say, I've been in the role 5 years now. I think we've had some success. I think we've still got work to do, but yeah, we will keep doing our best to try and do that.
Yeah, and I see Lincolnshire cricket, sort of in the news or highlighted, or obviously you play some of the minor counties stuff, so it's definitely out there. You're definitely doing something that's keeping it going. And I know even from a Retford perspective, I think when I was growing up, sort of Lincolnshire cricket and the minor counties, Lincolnshire bit was never really talked about. But I know even in the club at Retford, which is in Nottinghamshire, obviously bordering you, that Lincolnshire cricket has been discussed, and I think a couple of the boys have been over and been involved, and so I think that's a great thing, but how do you balance then that the importance of the grassroots development, which is key? I worry, if I'm to be perfectly honest with you, about the future of cricket and its longevity. I just hope that the youngsters do get involved more, do stick with it. There's far more for these kids to do these days than there ever was when I played, many 40 years ago now for me. So cricket was it didn't matter, it took all day because it wasn't stopping anything. But so how do you balance the importance of grassroots development but need to maintain competitiveness, I suppose, at those higher levels as I've just referred to with the minor counties and etc.
Yeah, and therein lies the challenge, doesn't it? There's lots of things that are important, and I think it goes back to sort of structure and how we set ourselves up, and the sort of departmental objectives and all that sort of boring stuff that sort of sits in that strategic planning kind of space within an organization. But it's really important, and there's lots of things that are important, and it's vital that we deploy the right amount of resource to sort of drive each of those areas forward. I think for us, it's a difficult one because minor county cricket, which you've mentioned there, it is the sort of pinnacle of recreational cricket, and particularly within Lincolnshire. And obviously we want to win. We want to win. As a player, I've always wanted to win. I've never stepped onto a field, not trying to win. So of course we want to win and we want to be competitive, but we also want to be transitioning talent. So if we are doing that, then we potentially become victims of our own success, because we move people on and away from Lincolnshire into the Nottinghamshire Academy or second 11 cricket, or we also border Yorkshire, we border Leicestershire. So geographically we've got quite a few exit routes for our players. So yeah, it is about trying to find a balance with that, and just understanding that that there are it's what you define as success, isn't it? And I think if you're quite singular about it, then it's you kind of go down a bit of a blind alley with it. So I think that defining what success looks like is really important, and we're actually in the midst of that now. We're just about to sort of pull together our next sort of 5-year plan. So we're going through that process at the moment of trying to identify what does good look like. What does success look like? What does a vibrant recreational game in Lincolnshire look like? So yeah, I think that process is really important. And I think, you know, trying to be clear on what you're trying to achieve is really important.
Yeah, I think you've touched on a couple of points there. Obviously, what does success look like, and that can look like many things. And I think that's important, that goals aren't just a goal of one drive. It's got to be, you know, a strand of goals or a group of different aims that make it successful. And I think when we come back in a couple of minutes, we'll talk about the community in the cricket and probably touch onto your 5-year plan. Due to the depth and quality of Martyn's insights, we've decided to split this podcast into 2 parts. This way, you can fully enjoy and absorb the great content in more manageable segments. This was part 1, with part 2 now available on the podcast selection. Please stay tuned for both. So thank you all for tuning in to Bats, Balls and Banter. And don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more exciting episodes. Until next time, take care and keep the cricket spirit alive. This podcast series is sponsored by Cricket Finder, the world's fastest growing cricket networking platform, bringing clubs, teams and players together from all over the world. Use the code POD24 to receive your subscription discount at cricketfinder.com.